Peace, everyone. It's Black Eyed Priestess. I'm just been watching some YouTube, and it's a lot going on about Tiffany Haddish. Um, for some of y'all who may not know, about a year ago, Cat Williams went on a radio show, and he gave his 2 cents, which was, a little bit more than that. He has a lot of weight when it comes to his opinion and the facts that he stated about the industry, about Hollywood, about being a stand-up comedian, and you know some of the issues, you know, pertaining to Monique, pertaining to other Linnell, I believe, Lunell, who I like, some of the other female comedians who he claims got sidetracked. And I love the way he stated it so eloquently that, basically to quote him briefly, he stated that Tiffany Haddish is essentially a demonstration of the fact that, in comedy, that's the one facet of the entertainment industry where women, Black women, should not be judged by the way they look. Yet, even still, when you're dealing with Hollywood, you can get sidetracked by anything light skinned. So, the first thing I have a lot of thoughts going through my head. The first thought is when Monique came out and called for a boycott of Netflix, I fully supported her with that. One, I didn't have a Netflix account because I wasn't subscribed to that type of entertainment. I don't have a TV. I didn't have Netflix. It was not an extra expense that I could afford, nor was I willing to invest in. So it was very easy for me to boycott on behalf of my sister, who I believe is very talented. And I did help with that boycott. And, I made a statement on her page about supporting that. When it comes to Tiffany Haddish, my instinct is to show support to a sister who is being bashed in the spotlight. But it comes from a bit of a different angle. I want to use Monique as a reference point for some of the other thoughts that went through my head. First and foremost, it's important for you light-skinned sisters to understand you cannot do what dark-skinned women can do just because you're light-skinned and you are promoted. It's very important for you light-skinned sisters to understand that a lot of things about being a Black woman in Hollywood, in any professional industry, require work that you light-skinned sisters will never have to do. Tiffany Haddish is still being paid, even though she didn't perform and deliver. Light-skinned women can do that. In fact, light-skinned women can do that more so than white women can. Because you see, this is another thought that I had. A lot of you Black women, regardless of your complexion, a lot of you Black women who come from a hood that is ghetto, and you come from a family that is ghetto, regardless of whether you grew up in a suburbs or a nicer setting, you come from a family that is ghetto. And when you get around white corporate society, Hollywood or not, you don't understand the difference in standards. So it's important to understand that light-skinned Black women get away with things that neither real Black women nor white women can get away with. Black women, real sisters. And when I say real sisters, I'm talking about sisters who struggle because they are Black recognizably. You light-skinned women, you can get husbands, you can get jobs, you make white people comfortable, you make black men comfortable. And you're held to a different standard because you're still considered black. And you can get away with the level of unprofessionalism that white women cannot get away with, nor can black women get away with. So I want to be clear about that. This is a wake-up call to light-skinned women. Stop thinking that you represent black women, because you do not when it comes to what black women go through. You are handed the things that black women have to work for. You're handed those things because you make white people comfortable with your femininity. So in the black community, you light-skinned sisters, you can get away with things. But when you get to that Hollywood level, and again, back to this being a message for all complexions of ghetto black women, be prepared. Be prepared for the new standard that comes with being in the arena of white supremacy. A lot of you ghetto sisters, you don't understand higher standards, higher class. You understand partying and twerking and getting drunk or being a baby mama, but you don't understand professionalism. And when you're expected to perform and expected to deliver, whether you work as a bartender or server like me, whether you work in the mailroom, whether you're performing in public, or whether you're performing in Hollywood, because you see, there are women, people, black and white, who do theater, not in Hollywood. And that is real performance. There's not smoke and mirrors when you go to a play, or when you go see an Olympics show, or when you go to a concert. So some of you sisters, especially you light-skinned sisters who don't have to meet any standard, because you're in a unique position where you can get away with things that neither black nor white women can get away with, because of the standards black women are held to by black people and white people, and because of the standards that white women are held to by white people. You can get away with things that white women would be considered white trash and discarded from their communities for. You can get away with being trash and sidetracking black women with talent. Wake up, light-skinned women. Wake up, ghetto black women. Don't think that your dreams and your aspirations and your fantasies do not include work, do not include professionalism. A lot of you sisters, a lot of you hood sisters, a lot of you ghetto sisters get to certain places utilizing men. And this is a wake-up call for women to understand that outside of being a stripper and outside of the hood, there is a work ethic required. And a lot of times you're going to be held to the same standard as a man. Don't think manipulating men throughout your life is going to get you your dreams and aspirations. When it comes time to work and show and prove that you're worth that spotlight that a lot of you black women want. You sisters love spotlight until it gets real. Black women are fake to the core until it's time to get real. Black women are very phony, very superficial, very artificial, very fake, put on a facade, put on any type of image. Black women are not used to having to be genuine and used to being held to standards of genuine realness. I think this needs to be a wake-up call for black women to get real and to understand that things require work. Things require professionalism. These dreams and these aspirations that these Hollywood movie stars and moguls and personalities make Black people aspire for have a reality to them. And that reality is work, not partying. That reality is a level of maturity. And a lot of Black people, Black women, are willing to do things to avoid accumulating talent and skill. Real talent and skill that is worthy of someone else's hard-earned money. Okay? I think this needs to be a wake-up call to Black women to understand what a standard is and what standards you should hold yourself to, that Black men don't hold you to, that your girlfriends don't hold you to. Okay? I don't know if I want to expound on that a little bit more, but I just want to say, furthermore, I think for Tiffany, she needs to understand the difference between a Black ghetto audience that is her fan base, possibly, and the white audiences that comedians who excel at their craft are put before. Again, light-skinned women, you are accepted by white people because you make them comfortable. You're accepted by Black people because Black people worship white. End of discussion. We're not talking about Africans in Africa. We're talking about a Negroid race in America that was manufactured to be nothing but slaves. When you're dealing with slaves and a slave mentality, it's different than dealing with white people with money who expect you to perform and deliver, or who have no regard for your failure and will put you in a position to fail, as long as it's entertaining to them somehow and as long as they continue to make money off of it. So back to what I was saying. She's performing, and this Black man, this Black male, takes it upon himself to make himself the show. Sisters, pay attention to how Black men are behaving. It's demonic possession. It's coming from these cell phones, these apps, this new technology. It's coming from the food. Black men who are indulging in Hollywood media are programmed against Black women. Another brother made a point. I could post the link to his video after this. I loved his video because he made it a point to mention how that Black man should have never been able to get that close to her as a performing artist on stage. Where is the security for Black women? Where is the support for Black women? I think Tiffany Haddish needs to take this reality check, humble herself, but more importantly, other Black women looking on need to take this as a reality check. How come there was no security to prevent that from happening, regardless of whether she was not in her right state to perform? She's still a performing artist. She was scheduled for that venue, and she had no protection from a crowd that was drinking. All right? It's very, very important to acknowledge what's happening to Black women, what is allowed to happen to Black women. Another thought that I had. How do you all think if she had a predominantly Caucasian crowd, what would have been the different reactions if that crowd was predominantly Caucasian? Why wasn't it? That's just another thought that I have. If Tiffany Haddish was a white woman and she was performing in front of a white crowd, unprofessionally, how do you think white people would have reacted? Do you think that you would see a flood of YouTube videos banking, getting likes and getting hits off of her demise, criticizing it? Some people, again, speaking up in her defense, albeit. But I want you all to question, everyone, anyone of any race or sex. And remember, sex is male and female, gender is masculine and feminine, for those of you who didn't pass the 3rd grade. What do you all think the difference would have been if she was a white woman performing in front of a white crowd? How do white people respond to their own? How do Black people respond to our own? Do you think a white man would have gotten up there and taken advantage of a white woman who was in a very vulnerable position? Do you think a white man would have gotten up there and made an Instagram post where now he's becoming popular from it? Would that have happened? Would white people be asking for their money back? Of course, we know white people got money to spare, but this is just food for thought. And as I was thinking about it, I really was thinking about something that I want to try to bring into the new year. Years ago, I did a campaign on Facebook encouraging Black people to not say anything negative, meaning if you're a Black woman, not saying anything negative about Black men or women. If you're a Black man, not saying anything negative about Black men or women for a full year. Now, I did monthly campaigns where I encouraged Black people to elevate the opposite sex, meaning encouraging Black men to elevate Black women on Facebook for a month and Black women to elevate Black men on Facebook for a month. No one participated for a full month but me, that I know of. I didn't see any hashtags. I didn't see all of that. But people thought it was a good idea. It's been very difficult for me to fulfill and start another campaign like that, a social media campaign, because my experiences with Black people have left me with very negative things to say about the individuals of my race who I have dealt with personally. And it's very hard to separate what you deal with on a daily, regular basis with what other people deal with on a regular basis. And trying to take on a leadership position, a spiritual position, when things are showing you that this is not a time of love and support and unity. This is a time of chastisement, harsh criticism, purging, purification. When I see the majority of Black men with white women, with non-Black women that they have convinced themselves and everyone else is a Black African dominantly genetic woman when she's clearly not. She's clearly a recessive Caucasian woman, maybe with a bit of a tan, maybe with a foreign accent. Black men say things like, well, she's Armenian, she's Arab, she's Brazilian. No, she's white. There are Black, darker than me, Armenians, Asians, Brazilians, Indians, Arabs, Muslims. You Black men are choosing white women. When every person in Hollywood, when every Black man in Hollywood is married to or having a baby by a white woman, including Black Panther, right? Including all them people in Black Panther. And you see that, I see that being played out in my neighborhoods, in my communities. I see that love and that desire for white femininity, because that is the leadership in Hollywood. There's a deep disconnect with respect for Black men and chastising Black men. My point in saying this is I want Black women to learn some lessons who may be paying attention to what's going on with Tiffany Haddish. The way Black people deal with each other, and I talked about this on Facebook earlier when I talked about the Trump, the border wall protection GoFundMe campaign, and how it shows that white people have expendable income, that white people will come together to protect their interests. But with Black people, it doesn't take anything for us to prey on vulnerable Black women instead of protect the Black women. So I think that's another lesson that sisters need to heed from this, instead of just looking at it as another form of entertainment and a light-skinned woman getting a reality check of what real Black women go through who won't sell out. Furthermore, another thing I wanted to mention was, not Cat Williams, where's what's the dude's name? Kevin Hart. Where's his weigh in on it? You pumped and you hyped and you flashed Miss Haddish all over your campaign, all over your media. All right. I had an inclination to suggest that Kevin Hart knew this may be the result and is somehow banking off of it. Is he making money off of her failure? No, but I believe any team around Tiffany Haddish knew that she wasn't ready and put her up to this because somehow they're benefiting from it. Not benefiting from putting a light-skinned chick who has no talent to the forefront to make a couple movies or whatever. But I'm saying they're benefiting from it somehow in a way where she's too ghetto to think like that yet in Hollywood. All right. I'm just suggesting that maybe Kevin Hart wanted negative attention on her because, as we know, in secret societies, people become blood sacrifices. It's like a pyramid scheme. You use someone else, you step on someone else who's helping you come up. You step on them or you sacrifice them in order to get to the next level. You create a tier system, a hierarchy. I'm willing to bet that Kevin Hart needed the negative attention on Tiffany and the drama on her to take off of the fact that you put on a dress to get your career off the ground. Even though personally, I knew Kevin Hart and I liked him before the whole Saturday Night Live dress fiasco. And I don't watch Saturday Night Live because I don't have TV and I haven't watched TV in years. I think that, again, some of you sisters who come from certain families, lower class families, ghetto families, ratchet families. I think you need to really understand what reality is and the level of intellect, the level of shrewdness, the level of tuning down your loudness and letting your loudness be a performance, but never losing your intellect and your intuition. Some of you sisters don't understand about performing. You're not dancers, you're not singers, you've never played an instrument in front of someone. You've never performed in public. You never have to give public speeches. You don't come from school systems that groom you to do these things the way white people do. These things these talents and these skills are given to white people in their education system at a young age. Ask me how I know. And I'm not saying it's not given to black people. We got church. A lot of you black people get your talent from church because church isn't teaching the Bible. It's teaching black people to perform. Remember, there's different standards of performance. And some of you sisters need to understand when you're getting around white people, you need to know how to pay attention in ways that you may not have to pay attention when you in the hood around other black people, where you're familiar with how black people operate. You're familiar with how to deal with snakes in your community, how to deal with pimps, how to deal with hoes, how to deal with hustlers, how to deal with the jealousy of women in the community, how to deal with the aggressiveness of black men in the community. But it's a different ball game when you get around some crackers. You don't know how to deal with their jealousy. You don't know how to deal with their male sexual harassment. You don't know how to deal with their racism, because you've never had to deal with it firsthand. You didn't grow up in a situation where you had to deal with white supremacy firsthand, and you are groomed to deal with white supremacy and navigate white supremacy. And that is something that Tiffany Haddish mentioned in her performance. The difference, how it's easier to be poor. Well, yeah, when you have no class, it's a lot easier to be poor. Black women, I need y'all to understand something. Operating around white people is not the same as being in the hood. You can take wisdom that you learn dealing with people in the hood and apply it, but you're behind enemy lines. You don't know and understand the motives of the Caucasian, of the recessive genetic. And I think that she needed to be aware. You see the way martial arts people think, even, and I can't even say all military people, because half of them come home and be drunk, what I'm saying, come home from war is what I'm saying, and they turn into drunks and stuff like that. But alcohol, drugs, all of these things are utilized in that industry to help people become vulnerable. And when you become vulnerable, when you become dependent, when you get loose with something like Ciroc owned by P. Diddy, what I'm saying, I wouldn't trust nobody in that industry. And a lot of you sisters, you don't come from situations where you can't trust anyone, because you're so used to being able to trust your mama, or some of y'all a few of y'all have a father, trust your mama, trust your sister, your brother, your cousin, this, that, and the third. You used to that level of family and community. You don't know how to be in a situation where you can't trust anyone, least of all the people who look like you, because of the role that they're put there to play. You sisters don't know shrewdness. She needed to be paying attention to who was around her, but she was too busy being the light-skinned princess of the ghetto for a month or a year. She was too busy getting her head pumped up. And she forgot to pay attention to her surroundings. All I'm saying is, I'm willing to bet Kevin Hart is benefiting from this somehow. Even if it's as simple as people no longer pointing the finger at him for selling out his Black masculinity to get to where he is, knowing that he ain't funny either. You sat there on Charlemagne's show, Tiffany Haddish, and y'all ain't tell one whole joke. Meanwhile, you listen to Godfrey on DJ Vlad, and you laughing the whole time through. I think this was a good opportunity for Tiffany Haddish to repent, so to speak, privately to these Black women who, that she allowed to be disrespected in the way that Williams was referring to. When you're a talentless woman who has hype based off of being able to read a movie script and be an actress, and you get that role because you're a light-skinned woman who's young enough, or who looks young enough, or who is ghetto enough to do that. But you didn't respect the elders, or the OGs, so to speak, or the real name brand talents. And this is a time for Tiffany to, like other sisters, need to have that wake up call and realize you should have paid attention when Monique didn't want to take that $1 or $500,000 or whatever. Sisters, know your worth. Monique made a gamble, but her calling for a boycott, I don't think that was just about the fact that she owed money. I believe that she defaulted on her taxes, or there was something where the money she was offered was just under the money that she owed. I don't think that her calling for a boycott of Netflix had to do with her owing money or being in debt or taxes. I think that had to do with her being sick of racism in Hollywood, and her doing what all of these white women who are lying about being molested by these Black men are doing, and they're getting all of their respect. They're doing it's Emmett Till all over again. But when a sister with talent calls for her people to support, what did you all do when Monique called for your support? What are you all doing when Tiffany Haddish is embarrassed? What do Black people do when Black women need the support? What do you all do, Black people? What do? You bash, you complain, you act ghetto, you do nothing, and you feed into the hands of white supremacy instead of creating a closed circuit where we can create a situation of healing, retaliation, vengeance, protection. We take Black women who are already in extremely vulnerable positions, trying to entertain other Black people and people at large, and we make them even more vulnerable by showing that us as Black people are not going to come together and support, and showing that, hey, white people, we throw our own to the wolves, whether they call on us or not, whether Black women call on the Black community support or not. Black women are vulnerable. I hope you sisters get your head out of your ass and out of your pussy and grow up. Realize what time we're living in. Especially you single sisters, because a lot of you sisters simply can't relate because you have a man doing everything for you. You have men in your life doing things for you that you need to get done. You don't know what it's like to have to do it on your own. Another thing, if Tiffany Haddish worked as hard as she's lying about working to get that part, knowing you didn't work that hard for it, you know, but for those of you Black women who do work as hard as she's claiming to work to have gotten where she's at, don't sabotage yourself. You have enough white people and Black men and jealous other Black women waiting for your demise the higher you climb in your success. I'm not talking about in fame and fortune. I'm talking about being successful at whatever goal that you've set for yourself. Don't sabotage yourself by not taking your craft serious enough to not do it sober, to not let partying and fun come between delivering a product or a service or a performance that other people are relying on you for. Black women, you are not men. Black women, we treat things like a baby and we infantilize things, whereas a man has a natural instinct to protect and provide. And a lot of you Black women don't understand. You are required to think like a man when you get into business. When you get into business, you have to think in a masculine way. And that is not natural for females, feminine women. All right? Our inclination is to nurture. So when it comes time to look at our clientele as relying on us, we treat it like a baby relying on us. You know what I'm saying? It's different to pull out your tit that God blessed you with and feed and nurture that baby, or cater to a crying baby, but it's not so simple to go do the man's work. And whenever you as a Black woman are getting into business of any kind, you're doing masculine work, not feminine work. And we have this feminine mentality when it comes to business, and you can't think like that. You cannot think like a nurturer when you're going into business. That's why matriarchy is the demise of the Black community. And I made a post about that. Matriarchy is the demise of the Black community because that base level of nurturing has its place in the home and its place in the community. But masculinity must prevail for the success of a society. And Black people are matriarchal to a fault. And Black women are running everything, and that creates a standard that will never compete with white supremacy. When you convince the Black woman that she's God, and you treat her like she's God, and you put her to the forefront of the revolution when she's a female, the weaker vessel. That's why Black people are inferior and will never defeat white supremacy on this land. Because Black people rely on motherhood to do everything. Matriarchy creates baby mamas and mama's boys. Patriarchy creates warriors and husbands. And if you're not intellectual enough to make that observation, you're probably a mama's boy or a baby mama. You know, I don't, you know, people accuse me of making blatant statements, you know, but like I said, I don't like to insult my audience by talking to y'all like y'all are some infants. Reach my level of intellect. Try to understand someone else's perspective who thinks differently from you, who sees things differently from you. Black women, you have to think like a man when you're in business. You cannot do all of this partying and getting away with all the stuff that light-skinned women get away with, that white women get away with. All right? Because we don't have protection, we don't have provision. And last thing I want to say is, Black women, don't worry about being something that is meant to insult us, to take away our beauty. But the fact of the matter is, we have no choice but to be strong. Men in our race are non-existent. Masculinity in our race is non-existent. We are not strong by choice. We are strong because our men are inferior. So are the women. Matriarchy, dysfunctional matriarchy. Ladies, when you are in business, behave like a man. I'm not saying don't use your feminine wiles to your advantage. I'm saying use them with a masculine mindset. Use your femininity to advance yourself. You are not at home with your kids in the club doing all of this stuff. You have to think like a man. You have to think masculine. And that requires a level of responsibility that females are not used to and do not have instinctively. Mothers have an instinct to protect their children. That is a nurturing instinct. It's not a masculine instinct. It's not aggressive. It's not assertive. It's not projecting. You're in business, you have to project. You have to project the way a man is designed to project. And women, we are designed to internalize. All right? Men aren't given the same privilege as women to be emotional and let their emotions take over. Women, we go through stuff. We have menstrual cycles. We have periods. You know, she's up there discussing emotional things that are affecting her. She tried to make it funny, but the reality of it is we can't do the same things that men can do without a level of support. Ladies, are you able to control your emotions the way a man is required to in society and professionally? Are you really able to do what men can do? This is serious. I mean, I really just want people to learn a lesson, especially Black women. Seriously. Black women, love being the center of attention, love getting attention. But when the smoke and mirrors clears, are you real? Is your hair real? Is your skin real? Is your character real? Is your talent real? Are your skills hard-earned, tried and true? Have you proven to yourself that you can do what you claim you can do to other people who are paying you to do it? Have you proven that to yourself? Or are you used to being light-skinned, damn near white, and getting away with things because you are socially acceptable? Are you used to being put on a pedestal and considered talented because you're socially acceptable? And then when a dark-skinned real sister comes along, you're trying to defend your lack of talent, your lack of intellect, your lack of beauty, your lack of understanding of what is needed for your clientele. The last thing I want to say, it is not easy to perform. Skill is something you work hard for. Talent is something that you are gifted with. Two different things, ladies, Black women. Skill is something you work hard, you learn. Practice makes perfect. You can have a talent, but practicing it will hone your skill to do it at a higher level, a more successful level, if you so choose. Practice makes perfect. There's a difference between skill and talent. I want you Black women to understand something. Performing, getting in front of an audience takes more than talent. It takes more than skill. It takes character. It takes character. And when you really have a character, doesn't matter how many butterflies are going in your stomach. It doesn't matter if the show business doesn't go according to plan. The show must go on. And when you have character, you will have something on stage to present to people. You can do things unscripted. You can improvise. A lot of you Black women want the spotlight on you because of your bodies, or because you think you have something to say, or you think you're beautiful, or you think you're queen and goddess and so spiritual and this, that, and everything. And you like attention, and you like taking selfies in the bathroom, at the club, when you're out, Instagram everywhere. You like all that attention, Black women. You love getting attention. But being in front of an audience, a live audience, is a very intimate thing. And it requires a genuine character. That, a lot of you Black women, you don't have characters. You got your own individual personality, but this ain't Snapchat with all them filters to make you look like something you're not. It's not scripted all the time. So those of you who have no talent and no skills can get up and create a facade as if you do. It ain't smoke and mirrors all the time. So if you got a bad body, if you got bad skin, if you got fake hair, if you don't have natural beauty, it's gonna show in the harsh lights when you're on stage. Black women know the difference between being on social media and actually being on a stage and having to deliver some type of performance, having to speak in public. Heed this, Black women, especially you light-skinned women. It is not easy to be a performer. It is not easy, especially when you get in the arena of white supremacy. A lot of you all don't have the emotional and intellectual wherewithal to be in an arena of white supremacy while Black, let alone unapologetically Black. And being ghetto is not being unapologetically Black. If anything, being ghetto is something that makes white people more comfortable with you as a performer. And your ghetto character will precede a Black woman who is showing something that may accidentally or intentionally elevate the minds of Black men who are seeing something actually desirable in a dark-skinned woman, and elevate the minds of Black women who are seeing something that's actually a role model for them and their daughters. I want you Black women to take a lesson from Tiffany Haddish and to put yourself in other Black women's shoes. Did you put yourself in Monique's shoes? Were you able to? Or have you never even been in a situation where you're with a bunch of crackers and you know your worth, to put yourself in a situation and say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to support the boycott. And again, I know some of y'all are just trying to come home and get entertained because your life sucks so much, and because you're not doing anything for Black people. You have no purpose. You go to work for white supremacy, and you got to shake it off with a Netflix show, which is more white supremacy. You ain't shit. But did you put yourself in Monique's shoes? Were you able to? Did you put yourself in Tiffany Haddish shoes? When you're thinking about, like constructive criticism. But do you all know how difficult things are and how hard reality can hit Black women? A lot of you sisters are not brave and you're not courageous. Most of you all are mothers. I'm not saying that doesn't require bravery and courage. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about those of you who have aspirations to be like the people you see on these TV shows and Netflix and in the hip hop industry and all of this other stuff. Don't let people co-sign your fuckery. Don't think because people like your Facebook post and like your fuckery that you are succeeding. Tiffany Haddish is a classic example of Black women thinking because they get likes and they get loves and they get hearts on social media and people and other Negroes and a few crackers are co-signing your fuckery, that you have a level of talent and skill that you don't have. I see these things on Facebook all the time. People co-signing Black women's fuckery and people knowing that words of wisdom can be spoken to this sister who's making herself look like a fool. But they choose to co-sign it. Black women, if you don't understand by now, you don't have any friends on this planet. You don't have that level of support system. Some of you all do individually, but as Black women, we are every woman for ourselves. And a lot of you all get blinded by how many people like your status, how many people tune in to your live, how many, you get blinded by acceptance when you sisters are such at a retarded level that you don't understand. These people are liking how stupid you make yourself look. These people are liking how manipulated you are. These people are liking how much you make them feel good about their self. And then if I get up there and make a comment to warn you of the unclean spirit you're dealing with while you think you're being cute, showing your altars and your shrines all over the place. If I make a comment to warn you of certain things while everyone else is liking and loving and accepting all of this stuff that you Black women get heavy into, Bitcoin, cutting your hair off, all of these things that I see are being acted by Black women in social media, and everyone's co-signing it. And I'm just like, you sisters don't know how to appreciate constructive criticism. You don't know how to appreciate words of wisdom from another sister. You too busy trying to be the prettiest and get the most attention, and you too busy being weary of a sister who you consider beautiful, who you admire, who you fear because you've never seen a sister so real with her hair, her skin color, how perfect her body is, how unique she is. So you let all of these other fake Black women and thirsty, lusty, savage Black men co-sign your fuckery. Best thing some of y'all can do in 2019 is cut off anyone who isn't making you be a better person? What are these likes and these loves and this attention and these views? What is it doing for you, Black women? What is it doing for you? Except co-signing your fuckery. Think about it. Think about it really hard and let Tiffany, and look at what's happening with Tiffany Haddish, not to join in to the criticism, but to understand, Black women. Start looking at yourselves differently. Our nation, our gene pool is under genocide. Black men are endangered. They are an endangered species. I need you sisters to wake up a little bit more. Wake up, smell the fresh air, and really start thinking about stuff instead of just consuming it. Black women, think about your worth. What are you really worth? What is your feminine value? What is the value of the talent and the skills that you have? Do you have any talent or skills? What is your worth? Ask yourself that. What goals do you have in life? What responsibilities do you have? What are your dreams and your aspirations? And what are you willing to do to achieve them? Think about that. Because one day you may be offered an opportunity to prove your worth for that dream job or that dream goal that you have. Think about, are you ready for that? Just like the bride of Christ and the body of Christ is encouraged to always be covered with the blood of Christ and let that be your salvation. If Christ came back today, right now, this instant, what are you going to be caught doing? Think about that, Black women. One day an opportunity may come for you to sell out or for you to prove yourself. Can you think and assert yourself like a man to achieve a goal? Or can you not? Think about it. The standards in the Black community for Black women are vastly different than the standards in white society for people in general. You cannot bring a matriarchal attitude into the corporate business, especially when you're dealing with these crackers. Unless you want to be the house mammy, unless you want to be the token mammy in the slave breeding machine. Are you able to step outside of that and think intellectually outside of the margins? Peace and love.